Okay guys, so this is extra practice for adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So you have to use the same strategy as you did on Monday's extra practice of finding the common denominator or the lowest common multiple to find the sum or the difference of two fractions that have unlike denominators. So if you look at this first one, 2 1/2 plus 3 2/3, they do not have common denominators, so I'm gonna need to find equivalent fractions. So if you use that same strategy of finding all the multiples of 2, or the first couple multiples of 2 and the first couple multiples of 3, you know that the lowest common multiple is 6. So I'm going to turn 2 1/2 into something over 6 plus 3 2/3 to 3 and something over 6. So to get from 2 to 6, I multiply 2 times 3, so 1 times 3 is 3, so 2 1/2 is equivalent to 2 3/6. So to get from 3 to 6, I multiply times 2, so I multiply this 2 times 2, which equals 4. So 3 2/3 is equivalent to 3 4/6. Now I can go ahead and add them because they have the same denominator. So I add the whole numbers, which is 5, and I add the numerators, which is 7, and I put it over the old denominator. However, if you look inside this mixed number, this is an improper fraction inside of a mixed number, which is not simplified. So you have to take this 7/6 and convert it into a mixed number and then add it to the original whole number. So this right here, we're gonna break it apart. We have 5, and then we're gonna flip this into an improper fraction, and that's 1 1/6. Now we can add that, and we get 6 1/6, which is simplified. So that's how you add mixed numbers. Now, to subtract mixed numbers, it can be a little tricky if the lower number or the lesser number that you're subtracting from has a numerator in the fraction that is greater than the numerator in the number that you're subtracting from. So for example, let's use this one. We have 4 1/3 minus 2 2/3. Okay, so they have the same denominator, so we don't need to worry about finding common denominators or finding equivalent fractions because they're fine. So what you're going to start with is the numerators in the fraction part. I cannot take 2 from 1, so I'm going to have to borrow from this whole number and regroup it into this fraction, okay? So if I take this 4 1/3, okay, and I take 1 away from here, it becomes 3. Well, 1 whole is equivalent to 3/3. Why did I pick 3/3? Well, the denominator is 3. So 1 whole then would convert into 3/3 if that denominator is 3. Well, I already have 1/3, so the new fraction becomes 4/3 because I add this 3 plus this 1 and put it over the 3. Now I can subtract my fractions. So I can subtract the whole numbers, which is 1, subtract the fractions, which is 2, put it over the denominator, and that's 2/3. So to show that visually, what that means is if you have 4 1/3, right? Well, I can't take 2 away from this, so I'm going to borrow from this one. Okay, so if this was 4, I'm going to borrow from this one and regroup it. Okay, so now this is 3. This is 1 whole, but now I turned it into 3/3, and this is 1/3. If I add all those up, it equals 3 4/3. It's like when you're borrowing in subtraction in a regular number, like if you have 19 minus, no, that's not a good example. If you have 21 minus 19, I can't take this 9 from this 1, so I'm going to borrow from here and regroup over here. Well, right now, I have 2 digits in my ones place, which is okay in order to be able to subtract, right? Okay, so go ahead and do the work below. You can print this off and do the work on the paper, or you can do it on a piece of paper and hold on to it because I will post the answers to all of these problems on tomorrow's Google Classroom assignment. Thanks, guys.